PJNET Live, starting a new week. It is Monday, 24th of February, 9 p.m. We have Hope standing by in our green room, bumper rolling, cameras aimed. We are recording and streaming. We'll switch to Studio 5 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, it's another week here on PJNET Live. I am certainly glad you're here, and if you're here, I hope that you are too. If you aren't, well, I guess it's easier for you to leave than for me, but I hope nobody does that. I hope that we have a good time together tonight. Thank you for those of you that have joined in our chat room at pjnet.tv, and those of you watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you may see this. We certainly are glad you're here. It's not the first time ever, but for the first time in a while, we have standing by Hope, and I always struggle with the name. It's like Bolinger. Bolinger. Not Bolinger. Bolinger.
Yep, Bolinger.
Bolinger. Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, nothing to it. And Hope has come to us. I think you're up in the great state of Ohio. You have some brand new lighting, brand new Wi-Fi, brand new everything, right? Everything's new.
Yeah, just moved into a new house about a week ago, so it's been a little crazy. Grabbed whatever lights I could, and here we are.
All right. Well, what's the matter? Rent come due at the other place? You had to move out? Is that...
Oh, goodness. It's a long story, but long story short, I bought my first house, and I have my dad's cat, and here we are.
Well, congratulations, Hope. I'm happy for you. Gee, boy, you're just growing up. You got your own house now. Tomorrow, you will be 23 years old, so anything you do tonight can be, if called into question, you can honestly say, oh, that was back when I was 22. Oh, I didn't know what I was doing. What do you expect from a 22-year-old? But you're quite an amazing 22-year-old. In case somebody doesn't know you out there, give them your one sheet or your resume, what you do. Tell us a little bit about yourself in case somebody doesn't already know you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I am, as of tonight, a 22-year-old literary agent. I'm a published novelist. I had my debut novel come out this past summer. They slated the sequel to come out in July. And also, I have a superhero book that I co-authored with another agent come out in January. So I have my hands full. And I, on the side, am a model, do some acting, and then most importantly, I am a Christian.
Now, I know that you have published Blaze, which I happen to have a personally autographed copy thereof. Oh, yes, that looks like it. What's the thrust of that one?
Absolutely. So the best way to summarize the Blaze trilogy is I take the book of Daniel and I put it in a high school. So the first book basically leads you up to a modern day fiery furnace. Second book is up to the lion's den. And then that last book, which is being considered by the publisher right now, is all those fun visions at the end. So it's what would Daniel look like in a high school now. So
the upcoming book, what do you like one word titles? Is that a thing? Is that going to be your signature, your forensic signature that says it's from Hope? It's got one word for the title. Den is the new one.
I wish it could. For this series, yes. All three books have a one-word title. Unfortunately, my other books don't. So I don't know if that could be a Hope signature. I know it is popular in teen genres to have shorter titles. But I don't know. I don't know if all my titles will be short or not. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Well, the subtitle can be, I think, a paragraph, by the way some of these books go. You get this title, and then it goes on and on and on. It's like, I don't need to read the book. I read the subtitle. I mean, it's, but of course, so Den, you call it Den because?
Lion's Den.
Lion's Den. Now, I'm privileged to be on the inside of your launch team. And I've kind of seen some of these. I'm new at this, okay? but the idea, I'm sure, is to have a launch team. But your launch team has a lot of things that I think are very different. Tell me in your own words, what is different about the way you're approaching this launch team as opposed to most launch teams?
No, that's a good question because as soon as I had to form my own launch team for the first book, I had never been a part of launch team. So it was a completely new learning experience. So essentially what a launch team is for a book, for those who don't know, it's a group of team members, usually anywhere between 50 to 200 people who get a copy of the book early. And when the book releases, they try to promote the book on social media. They try to order copies at their library, and they just try to get the word out about their book. But how I'm running this launch team a little bit differently is there are some added incentives on top of being able to read the book early. So not only do people get the first copy of the books 1 and 2 of the trilogy, but also I'm having some prizes for people who are kind of participating the most in the launch team. So people have the opportunity to win a $50 Amazon gift card and 6 autographed copies of the books of the series. So there's just an added incentive on top of being able to read the 2 books. I try to put as many sneak peeks as possible so the launch team gets to see the trailer first, they get to see the cover first, they get to see everything before everyone else does. So I'm trying to have them get the insider scoop before anyone else can.
Now, you already had a cover for the book, but I think today it was that you launched some kind of, it had one kind of spiced up a little bit. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so moving covers are becoming really huge, especially in fiction, particularly because videos really capture the attention of an audience. So just posting a book cover now won't grab people's attention as they're scrolling. So moving covers are becoming increasingly popular in my genre. So I collaborated with an artist who specializes in moving covers, and she was able to kind of vamp up the cover even more than it already was. So I'm excited to share it. I can't share it until April when the book pre-order is available, but the launch team did get to see it. It does have some moving elements, and I'm pretty excited.
I wish I had skill at that. I mean, I can do a little bit with video, but I've seen some. There's people out there that with a craft that can. We had some. We took our logo and had it animated, and some others. There's a lot you can do digitally to put motion. And you said something that we've heard before. You got to get them to stop scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
That could be
Yeah.
a topic in a conference, couldn't it? How to? I mean, I don't. I know it's a great idea. I'm not sure how to go about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we could have a whole 30-minute conversation on just this alone. There have been entire conference classes dedicated to how to get people to stop scrolling because it's hard. It's hard to get people's attention. You have to find ways to make your content relevant and as quickly as possible. So I think in the book publishing industry, especially, people are trying to find ways to really capture that attention really fast because there's a lot of books out there. And so you want to show people that your book is the one that's worth reading.
Well, you're competing not only with other books on social media, you're competing with all kinds of. I mean, everybody, social media, well, someone said it, they probably didn't make this up, but it's so true, is a place where everybody wants to be heard, but nobody wants to listen.
Yes, absolutely. Especially in the publishing industry now, your following is huge. They want to know that you not only have a lot of followers on every single platform, they want to know that people are regularly commenting, they're regularly sharing your content. And if you don't have a lot of people listening and a lot of people engaging, then they are interested in your book. They want to make sure that you are being heard. And so you have all these authors now who are wanting to be heard on top of everything else that's happening. So yeah, it's really hard to get people's attention. And so publishers will nitpick every small detail because they have so many people who are wanting to get a book published.
Well, I today I noticed I'm in a particular Facebook group, and I think no, it's an open group for Serious Writer, and I went to post something there today, and I had this little thing. It used to be Rising Star,
Mm-hmm.
but now I am a conversation starter.
Oh.
Ooh, I thought, I hope, did I go up or down from Rising? I wasn't sure. and but it's funny because the thing you're talking about is relevant. Okay, because what that means apparently is that when I post something, people pile on.
Hmm.
So it's not enough that your message got out there and maybe got reposted or liked and all that, but I think people are looking for actual organic engagement, not just a click of the mouse that like. And I'm just really proud. I mean, we're just getting started, folks. But the PJNet team, we are developing an actual protocol of what we call reciprocal inflation, whereby we build each other up. And I was having a conversation with somebody, Doug's in our chat room. I think this is a message for authors or people in the publishing business. It's hard work. Okay, all the little shortcuts and the cheat methods are gone. Buying followers on Twitter, y'all are onto their game at this point. But what you can't buy is organic engagement. That has to come. There has to be some common bond between those people. And I think as Christians, as Christian writers, I think that actually gives us an advantage, doesn't it?
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think because we feel so compelled, we have messages that are placed on our hearts, we definitely have an advantage. Because what I can tend to see when I go to, so in I'm going to just define some terms here. So in publishing, you have two markets. You have the Christian market, and then you have the general market. So Christian market is for people who are writing for a predominantly Christian audience, and then general market is just kind of everything else. And whenever I go to a general market conference, it's always interesting because people are trying to write something that is going to sell the quickest. They're trying to hop on every single trend you can think of. They're trying to build their platform to an outrageous number just so an agent can't say no. People are just trying to become a book of the minute rather than a book of all time. And I think readers are getting really sick of it. I see it constantly in reviews. I see it in book blogs. People are getting frustrated because writers are feeling this pressure to write this stuff that is extremely sellable, but isn't necessarily great literature. And so readers are really craving something that has a classical feel, something that has a really good message. They're really wanting something like that. And so Christian writers definitely do have an advantage because they have that message already on their hearts. It's just a matter of writing it well.
Well, I'm not a literature person. Okay, I'm a scientist, but I am fascinated by certain. I'm also a sociologist and a psychologist, so I'm fascinated by why would a book like Moby Dick
Hmm.
be a classic? It has no value, or it has no utility. You know what I'm saying? It's entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. But when I am a fan of Star Trek, and there's episodes of Star Trek that are basically Moby Dick, sci-fi. It's Moby Dick in a sci-fi setting. What makes a book like Moby Dick, or maybe if you have a better example, what is the recipe? What is the ingredients that make a classic book classic?
I love this question because I'm a huge fan of classics. Moby Dick is one of the only ones I have not yet read. So I wish I could kind of build from that example, but I can build from, I've read all of Shakespeare's plays, I've read all of Jane Austen, I've read quite a few authors. I think the biggest thing is just experience. I think an author really just dives deep into the human condition, the greatest questions we've ever wondered, and they tackle all of them in the books. And I think that is the reason why we study them in schools. We're still reading them today. They're making movies now out of all of them. They're redoing all the classic movies. I think Emma is coming out this year. They did Little Women. I think there's a reason because there's something universal that lasts throughout time. And I want to argue that there's universal principles that are underlying that you can find throughout the Bible that are in all these books, especially because a lot of these writers will draw from religious inspiration. But I think they're diving deeper into something that's deeply embedded in the human condition. And that's why they've lasted throughout times. That's why we're still performing Shakespeare's plays and why we're still reading Jane Austen in school.
Well, to get a college degree, I had to take a class called Humanities, and I thought this is so stupid. I mean, again, I get down to utility. I need a book that reveals some new truth. But anyway, so we studied the Iliad, and Moby Dick, and guess what else we studied? The Book of Job.
Oh, yes.
Now I don't know if they tried to do that today. They'd probably scream and squeal, but the teacher was teaching it as a classic literature. The human condition, I think what I'm not a writer, but the all the books that these classics involve some kind of struggle. There was something to overcome, and this is where you reach down into that human condition. The fight in psychology, we call it fight or flight. You either stand and fight or you turn around and run. It's self-preservation. That's the utility of it. But it is only when we face some kind of crisis that we find out what a person's really made of. Zig Ziglar said a man, like a tree, is a lot easier to measure when it's down.
Oh, that's a good quote. Yeah, no, I think that classic books definitely try to show what a person is made of. And I think that's why we really have come to love them. It's also the characters too. We can relate to certain characters. But yeah, I mean, everyone has a classic book that they love. Everyone has a classic book that they hate. Everyone is kind of all over the spectrum with them, but there's no denying that they're going to last for a while. And so what I think publishers are struggling with now is they want works of that caliber, but they also want works that are extremely marketable and sellable for today's audience. And that is a tightrope. And Christian authors have an extra tightrope, I guess, on top of the tightrope, because they have to find a way to incorporate a good Christian moral message, whether it's for a Christian audience or whether you're trying to reach a general audience, but you're also trying to write extremely well. And sometimes what that looks like is also avoiding things that you will see typically in a book nowadays, such as excessive violence or excessive promiscuity or swearing. Christian writers really try to avoid that, but they also want to write extremely good stories. So you have quite the tightrope that you are walking on. It's floss thin, but writers are walking it now in the Christian industry.
Well, it's tempting to, quote, sell out. Put those things in the book and as you were saying that, I thought, well, to make the book sell, you basically have to make it unwholesome. You have to put sex in there or something that appeals to the flesh of the audience. That seems to be insatiable. I like the way Leonard Nimoy, that would be Spock on Star Trek, referred. He used some curse words, and he was called out. This is in the script, and he said, "No, that's a colorful metaphor." It's not a curse. I wasn't cursing. I was using it, and he lied one time, and he says, "That's not a lie. That's an error." That's an error. I spoke in error. But I think it's the character development. For example, Star Trek to me is a classic because you can anticipate each character, and they internationalized the audience. Scotty the engineer. You could, and Bones the doctor. Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor. I'm not. Not. You could anticipate how they were going to react, and I think that's part of what Moby Dick, Captain Ahab. Was just a salty, crusty. Guy who had no compassion for his crew. Anyway, gosh, where'd the time go? What else did you want to say before we have to go? I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness! Wow, that went by really fast. Well, if you are a Christian author, I do really want to encourage you. I know in the industry, a lot of times people will try to get you to essentially sell out or to write stuff in there that you don't want to. But definitely just keep writing the message that is placed on your heart. I truly believe that anyone who takes shortcuts or tries to cheat the industry, they're not going to be ahead for the longest time. I really believe that those books that people are writing, that are books for all time, not just books of the minute, are going to last the test of time. And so keep writing the message that's on your heart. Earlier, we were having a conversation about how if we even just have one reader or one person watching this or no one watching it, we would still write and we would still do this because we have a certain message that we need to proclaim. And so we're going to proclaim it no matter if we have an audience of 1 or an audience of 1 million.
Yeah, the affirmation is from above. I know we're out of time, but I wanted to say, isn't it great that today, that if you're a Christian writer wanting to become a published author, there are now organizations out there like Serious Writer who are actively seeking that kind of writing. Because what if you didn't have that and you just had to go up in the, that's a minefield out there. How in the world would you sell a Christian book without somebody like Serious Writer, advocating our interest, in that market? So kudos to Serious Writer, and I'm sure there's others. But hope it's great to have you come back and visit. I'm glad that you've got your own house. You can go out and enjoy your last few moments of being 22 years old now. But I will say this: you have wisdom far beyond your years, Hope, and there are so few in your generation that I can say that about. I'm just glad to know you, and I'm glad that we can have you here to share.
Thank you so much for having me here. And it always goes by so fast.
There you go. It's fun. Appreciate it, Hope. Thank you so much. Well, it's always good to have hope. It's always good to have hope. In a literal and metaphorical sense. Folks, we have Casper for Colorado coming up at the bottom of the hour. We're going to take a short little break here. I hope. I haven't gotten word. We were having some technical problems earlier. We will find out if they persist real soon because I've got to gear things up for Casper coming on real soon. And before I leave, I'll leave you with 2 questions. Number 1, what is the boldest thing you have ever done for Jesus Christ? Number 2, how long ago was that really? The challenge for myself and all of us is to never be satisfied with either answer.